everyone. It's Monday, July the 11th. We've got a lot of news today, not because it's a busy Monday, but because we didn't do a show on Friday. So we're kind of combining Friday's news with today's news, and it should be a longer news section. So let's go ahead and get it on. Here we go. Let's begin. Video game sales are set to decline annually for the first time in years due to recession. According to research from market data firm Ampere Analysis, the global games and services market is forecast to contract to 1.2% year on year to $188 billion in 2022. Ampere data shows the sector expanded 26% from 2019 to 2021, reaching a record 191 billion USD in size. Sales of video games have been consistently growing since at least 2015. Gaming obviously got a huge boost from COVID-19 shutdowns in 2020 as people spent more of their time indoors, and the launch of next generation consoles from Microsoft and Sony also occurred during that time. However, logistics disruptions and shortages of vital components have meant great difficulty finding any of the new consoles on store shelves or online. Piers Harding Rolls, which is who is a research director at Ampere, said the figures show that the game industry isn't, quote, recession proof, with cost of living challenges inflicted by higher prices likely to weigh on consumption. He goes on to say, quote, after 2 years of huge expansions, the game market is poised to hand back a bit of that growth in 2022 as multiple factors combine to undermine performance. Even so, the year will end well ahead of pre-pandemic performance, and the outlook for the sector as a whole remains positive, with growth forecast to return in 2023. Ampere also expects the market to return next year, so much so with the sales expected to hit $195 billion. We'll see. Should be a good next year as well. This year has been kind of shit, I have to say, for game releases, but should finish strong with God of War coming out, I would think. The NPD Group has reported declines in U.S. consumer spending on gaming every month so far this year, and it doesn't expect the rest of this year to reverse that trend. A note from NPD analyst Matt Piscatella projecting that U.S. game spending would end in 2022 at $55.5 billion, down almost 9% year over year. Some of the drivers of that decline include the return of experiential spending, higher prices in everyday spending categories such as food and fuel, and the uncertainty of video game console hardware and certain accessories such as gamepads, and a lighter release slate of games, among others, he says. Some NPD groups predict for 2022 at the year's halfway mark that the Switch will lead 2022 console hardware and units sold, with dollar leadership too close to call at the moment between the Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. Speaking of Xbox, the Xbox Series will be the only console hardware platform to show dollar sale growth compared to 2021. Hardware shortages will continue into 2023, particularly on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, while potentially impacting other segments such as VR. And the other prediction is that Elden Ring will finish as the best-selling premium game in the US market, marking only the third time since 2009 that a Call of Duty franchise release does not lead the market. Despite Elden Ring leading the individual title charts, Call of Duty will remain the US market's best-selling premium gaming franchise for a record 14th consecutive year. As well as increased PC GPU availability and price declines will incentivize PC gamers to upgrade and make PC gaming an even more appealing consumer option. As always, subscription will be 2022's only video game content growth segment. Continues to boom. On Friday, maybe it was Thursday, I forget the exact timeline. Regardless, it happened. The Entertainment Software Association, also known as the ESA, has announced a partnership to produce E3 2023 with Reedpop, the event production company behind PAX, EGX, New York Comic Con, the Star Wars Celebration, as well as others. The two organizations will host E3 2023 and its home at the Los Angeles Convention Center during the second week of June. The event will encompass both digital showcases and in-person components that will be open to consumers. Both organizers promised a, quote, a week of Titanic AAA reveals, earth-shaking world premieres, and exclusive access to the future of video games. Yeah, of course. Stanley Pierre-Louis, the president and CEO of the ESCA, stated, quote, we are thrilled to bring back E3 as an in-person event with Reedpop, a global leader in producing pop culture events. The past 3 years have confirmed that E3 convenes our industry like no other event. Really? It did? Okay. Reedpop brings world-class talent and a keen understanding of the video game industry, which will serve to enhance the E3 experience for years to come. Of course, all of this over at the ESA announcement has prompted Jeff Keighley to take to Twitter to remind people that, quote, Summer Game Fest will return in June 2023 as a free digital and in-person event to celebrate the future of video games. So next year, the great E3 wars have begun. Who will win? I guess consumers, right? Because could be a bunch of options. Could be exciting. I don't still think I'm going to go to any E3 event, though, in person. That seems like a nightmare. That seems like a bad time. I'm not about it. Today, Sony announced that it has finally acquired Haven Studio, which is, of course, led by Jade Raymond. In a new interview with GameIndustry.biz, Raymond revealed that Haven's workforce has grown from around 50 employees last October to 106. She also revealed that Haven is investing heavily in R&D and, quote, long-term cloud innovation because we really believe it's going to be a game changer in terms of how games are made. 21 engineers have joined the studio to focus on cloud innovation, and Haven has hired Jalal El Mansouri, who was the technical architect on Ubisoft's Rainbow Six Siege, currently principal architect and head of R&D at Haven. Raymond also teased an exciting collaboration with PS5 architect Mark Cerny, who she said is having a big impact on the evolution of the studio. The quote exactly reads, so Mark Cerny is one of the main reasons we're investing so much in R&D and this very senior engineering team. It's not just tied to cloud, but also some more forward-thinking R&D. I'm not able to say much now, but that's obviously one of the other things that's been a big attractor and is exciting to our team with PlayStation. Cool. Hope to see a game from them soon. Anytime. I'd love to see anything out of Jade Raymond. I feel like she's just gotten absolutely destroyed from layoffs and failed projects over the past decade, it seems like. So bring on the new. Let's see it. Square Enix has dropped a ton of new info for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. This new information comes from multiple different media interviews with Tetsuya Nomura and Yoshinori Kitase. We're going to mention some of those interview questions. For the full interviews, we recommend you checking Audrey on Twitter, Gamatsu, and Eurogamer interviews. Who the hell's Audrey? I don't know what that is. Anyways, let's move on. We got a bunch of questions here. We're going to read them, and then we'll tell you what they say. The interview says, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Let's talk about it. We see Cloud and Sephiroth walking together, and that's a scene from Cloud's flashback, right? Nomura says, yes, that is correct. Due to some rules regarding what info we have, we can show, the UI has a portion of it that's turned off. That's made some people think it's a new scene, but I just wanted to clear this up. Tase says, the mountains in the background are very distinct, so I hope it allows you to recall the original's location. In the original, Sephiroth joins your party and fights with you in the flashback. Will that happen again? Nomura answered and said, please wait for more information regarding that. The interviewer says, in that scene with Sephiroth, You can see the distance to the destination is quite far. It seems like the maps are extremely huge. Nomura responded and said, I can't talk about that much yet, but it is very fast. Katase's answer was, I hope you can also recall the original as well. Once you left Midgar, you had a feeling of, well, now where do we go? With such a vast world that opens up for you, anyone would be excited to start on their journey. In the trailer, we also see Zack carrying Cloud on his shoulders as they make their way back to Midgar. Nomura's answer to that was, yes, we hope that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will give you that feeling of opening up to the journey. Zack is a key character in this game, so please look forward to it. So far, none of this seems like a big shocking revelation, at least to me. Let's continue though. I think there's 3 pages of this. The interview says, I'm sure there are different possibilities regarding that scene and really makes you theorize. Well, since you mentioned there will be 3 parts, where exactly will Final Fantasy VII Rebirth cover? Nomura's answer says, we have not announced until recently how many parts this story will be, as we actually were considering whether to do it in 2 or 3 parts. Oh. The interviewer response says only 2 parts, since Final Fantasy VII Remake only covers Midgar. It's left us with the impression there might be 3 or even 4 parts. The original game is only 3 discs with the international version on 4. Nomura respondent says, we started planning with 3 parts in mind, but there was a time when Katase suggested we actually divide it in 2. His response, Katase's, was, it was one of the ideas I had among the many different ideas we were tossing around. When we were planning Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was difficult to see exactly how much manpower it would take, but after completing Final Fantasy VII Remake, we had a much better picture of how much manpower and what type of schedule it would require. That's why I had a thought that we might be able to reach the ending with even the next installment. Wow. Nomura says at the moment, we do not plan to do more than a trilogy. However, since Final Fantasy VII Remake only took place in Midgar, people might think that, might be worried that the remaining 2 installments will have too much content and we might have to omit something. Rest assured that we will not condense things, as each installment has a lot to offer. The interviewer responded and said, the amount of content to cover after Midgar, it is a lot, so we're looking forward to it. The game will be released next year in that winter, so that's very soon. We'll only be about 1.5 years away, so before that, we also have Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, and Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. There's a lot of Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier, which is already available. Oh, there's also Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier, which is already available. Nomura says, yes, that's right. I do not, in the future. Can we just bullet? I hate fucking reading this interview, Yervin. You're killing me with this shit. Bullet this fucking points out. This is stupid to read the interview like this. I'm going to go on. Nomura says, yes, that's right. I don't want fans to just patiently wait for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. So I wanted to allow fans to continue enjoying the world of Final Fantasy VII and connect them to the trilogy. Our staff are doing their best parts. We really hope we can look forward to the game. Katase says the basic part of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been completed, and right now we're in the mass production phase. We're making great progress on that game, so please wait a bit longer. Just like this interview, it's going to go a bit longer. 4Gamer says, please tell us more about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. The original Crisis Core is a prequel to Final Fantasy VII and plays a vital role to the compilation story and became I might actually just skip all this shit. As a result, the fans' response was huge after hearing of the HD remaster. Katase says, in Final Fantasy VII Remake, Zack makes much more appearances than in the original game. Because of that, we wanted people who have played Final Fantasy VII Remake to have a deep dive into who exactly Zack is. That's why we decided to do an HD remaster of Crisis Core where Zack is the protagonist and fans could play as him to see his story. I'm very glad that many fans were happy to hear we are working on the HD remaster. I'm not sure if it's all right to ask this, but since Crisis Core will be releasing, it is apparently supposed to connect with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Does that mean the story will change? Katase answered, the story will be faithfully reproduced with respect to the original material. We will not change the story as a result of the influence from Final Fantasy VII Remake. The parts that will be similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake are related to assets and battle elements. Nomura added in, we made some adjustments visually to fit in with Final Fantasy VII Remake, such as the Buster Sword and Summon designs. The interviewer says, I see. I was actually thinking that you might add in some kind of surprise in the story. Nomura's answer to that is regarding why we will leave it unchanged. If we were to change it, then the differences we have shown with the Final Fantasy VII Remake project compared to the original will be for naught. For the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, if you are to play it through to the end, you'll see a mystery unravel before you. We do not plan to change the past, and on that same note, we do not want... I hate you, Nomura. We don't want to modify or add anything to... They put an acronym in here for this whole thing, and I'm just going to read that because I think that's hilarious. We don't want to add anything to CCFF7R because history has not been changed. So what you are saying is that even though FF7R project is portrayed differently than the original, what happens up until that point remains the same. Nomura's answer, yes, exactly. It might give you a sense of uneasiness or foster doubt. So you might ask, why is Zack heading to Midgard with Cloud and Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth trailer? Well, the answers will unfold as you play FF7 Rebirth. And that is enough of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Joseph Staten, the head of creative for Halo Infinite, has announced that former Bungie director Paul Bertone, or maybe Bertoni, has joined 343 Industries to work on the flagship Xbox shooter as technical design director. In this position, Bertoni will help to bridge the gap between the studio's design and programming teams, ensuring that developers are able to create content with their tools smoothly and without hindrances. Staten tweeted, quote, I'm happy to confirm veteran Paul Bertoni has joined the team as studio technical design director. Paul and I met in 1999 back in Bungie's Chicago days and then shipped Halo 1 to 3, ODST, and Reach together. I'm thrilled to have Paul help lead the future of Halo Infinite. Yeah, someone needs to, because that seems like a fucking steaming trash pile of shit right now over there at Infinite. I don't know anyone that plays that game and that's happy with it. Hopefully they get it back on track. Rockstar Games has confirmed that it is no longer working on major content updates for the game's multiplayer mode. In an update on its website, Rockstar discussed its plans for both Red Dead Online and Grand Theft Auto Online, revealing that it will be winding down the former in part as the studio concentrates on its next blockbuster. The studio stated over the past few years, quote, over the past few years, we have been steadily moving more development resources towards the next entry in the Grand Theft Auto series, understanding more than ever the need to exceed players' expectations and for this next entry to be the best it can possibly be. And as a result, we are in the process of making some changes to how we support Red Dead Online. I'm really curious what the next Red Dead looks like. It's kind of weird. Or the next Grand Theft Auto, I mean. It's been too long. They've been making too much money off of Grand Theft Auto Online. So, wonder what that 6 looks like. We'll see. Respawn is currently working on a new single-player FPS set in the Apex Legends universe, also known as the Titanfall universe. Why not just call it fucking Titanfall 3? There's some job ads that have revealed all of this. Dexerto spotted all of it. Several job listings for Respawn's Apex Universe FPS incubation project have appeared, describing the in-development game as, quote, a brand new adventure, Respawn single-player adventure. Goes on and said, this new single-player title is developers' dream playground with the freedom to innovate made possible by the unique universe it inhabits, one job ad reads. It is unclear if the project is related to the unannounced single-player project Respawn first confirmed it was working on last year. A Fall Guys clone called Stumble Guys. Really? Never heard of that. It's topped the free iPhone game charts in both the US and the UK. Developed by Finland's Kitka Games, Stumble Guys actually soft launched a few months after Fall Guys released for PS4 and PC in August 2020, before launching globally in January 2021. The game has really taken off in recent months, according to data from market intelligence tool app Magic. Stumble Guys has now been downloaded over 163 million times and generated $21.5 million since launch. It's also currently in top 10 of both the US and UK play download charts. Weird. That seems wild to me. I guess going free to play not only helped Fall Guys, but also helped that game. Haze Light Studios has announced It Takes Two has now reached over 7 million copies sold. For reference, that game passed 5 million copies in February 7th earlier this year. congratulations to everyone for that. One of the bigger releases this week, or really I think came out last Friday, is called Madison. We've got some review scores. Shack News gives it a 9 out of 10. Xbox Era, however, a 4 out of 10. Push Square, a 5 out of 10. It's currently sitting at an 82 on OpenCritic with 12 critics and an 80 on Metacritic with 6 critics. That seems kind of all over the place. Some Steam top sellers for the week ending on the 10th of July. The Steam Deck sitting at number 1, Raft. Number 2, Monster Hunter Sunrise, Sunbreak. And number 3, that's not Sunrise, it's just Rise. I don't know why I added that. F122 at number 4, and Ready or Not coming in at number 5. Not done with the news just yet. GameStop Chief Financial Officer Mike Recupero is exiting as the gaming giant will lay off, quote, a number of, end quote, employees as it strives for, quote, sustained profitability. CEO Matt Furlong wrote in a memo to employees obtained by Axios. Why does it all matter? Furlong said the move is aimed at reducing cost and shifting towards an intense owner's mentality for the failing business turned meme stock. GameStop has been hemorrhaging cash since for a while now, actually, promising better days ahead. Recupero will be replaced as CFO by Chief Accounting Officer Diana Jage as the company pursues growth in sales and launching new products. Furlong said the cuts come after the company hired more than 600 workers in 2021 and the first half of 2022 combined. Leaders are now in a better position to understand its, quote, transformation needs. GameStop will lay off employees at its publication, Game Informer, as well. The company will also make, quote, significant investment in store leaders and employees, which Furlong called the, quote, heart of GameStop. PlayStation is removing purchase content from accounts in Germany and Austria next month. In a legal notice, the company said that from August 31st onward, users will no longer have access to content from Studio Canal due to the company's, quote, evolving licensing agreements with content providers. The notice reads, quote, you will no longer be able to view your previously purchased Studio Canal content and it will be removed from your video library. PlayStation shared a long list of films affected by the change, but gave no mention or refunds for digital content purchased via the store. Sounds about right. Take-Two has issued a DMCA takedown to a modder known as Luke Ross, who's behind VR versions of Grand Theft Auto 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and the Mafia trilogy, also known as Trilly. That's short for trilogy for the Zoomers. And was previously reported by The Verge that he's earning over $20,000 a month from his modding activity. I didn't know that. In a post on his Patreon, Luke Ross explained that Take-Two demanded for all of its copyrighted works to be removed from his page. The modder then said that he's asked Take-Two for clarification as it's his, quote, belief that he's not hosting any such materials. Luke continues and wrote, as you all know, I do create and distribute original modifications for those games, i.e. original pieces of software of my own creation that will allow users to experience those games in a different and hopefully more intense and profound way. However, none of my modifications are built using software belonging to Take-Two Interactive Software, and that the modifications are not intended to replace their games, nor are they means of exploiting Take-Two's interactive software, proprietary IP, or assets. All of my modifications require that users buy and own the games before they can add my modifications. That sounds like illegal, like a lawyer got in there. In an update to all of this, Luke Ross hadn't explained that he hadn't heard back from Take-Two. He explained that he hadn't turned back from Take-Two at the time of writing, but the Patreon had, quote, offered to try and establish a direct channel. Wow, Patreon's helping with that? Weird. Strange. Bandai Namco sent Twitter user Klein Suboy, also known to a lot of Elden Ring players as fans of as Let Me Solo Her, a celebratory gift containing a real sword with the words Rise Tarnish transcribed on the sword. The gift was sent to celebrate Let Me Solo Her's 1000th victory on Millennia, the Blade of Miquella, achievement in Elden Ring. a fantastic story. Definitely go check that out if you haven't heard anything about that. It is a really cool situation in video game news. Also last week, Yu-Gi-Oh! Creator Kazuki Takahashi, who was age 60, was found dead off the coast of Okinawa. He was wearing snorkeling gear. I don't know if cause of death was ever revealed from that. However, really sad story, and I know a lot of people were upset to hear all of that news. In the world of rumors, there have been rumors circulating that Marvel has partnered with EA on a new fighting game. This rumor is unrelated to the other rumor that NetherRealm Studio is working on a Marvel fighting game of their own. The main leak originates from the Xbox era podcaster Shepeshal Nick. You mean Nick Shepeshal? I don't think his name. Oh, his username is Special Nick. That's a stupid name. Nick says that he's heard Marvel is partnering with Electronic Arts on a new game tied into one of its IPs. Nick did say, however, that the leak came from a source he isn't entirely confident in, but decided to share the news anyways. Thanks, Special Nick. The list of PS5, PS4 games coming to PS Extra Plus Extra and PS Plus Premium later this month have been leaked. The games are Stray, which is already confirmed for July 2022, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade plus Episode Intermission, Assassin's Creed 4, Assassin's Creed Unity, Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry, Assassin's Creed The Ezio Collection, Saints Row 4 Re-Elected. Those are all rumors, so take that with a grain of salt. We'll see if any of those actually make it. The end of the news says to check JPedia for game releases this week, but spoiler, there's no video game releases. None at all. They're all gone. At least until next week, where you get a cat game called Stray. That's coming out. And then on the 29th, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 releases, which we're obviously going to be checking out here on the channel. That's going to do it for Monday's news. Thank fuck it's over, and I don't have to read any more Final Fantasy VII interviews. We'll see if anyone pops up on Wednesday with some more. We'll see you guys then. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to check out the TikTok version of this in under a minute over at tiktok.com/itmeJP TikTok, or just itme.jp/TikTok. Have a good rest of your day. We're out of here. We'll see you Wednesday for more JPNN. Bye-bye.